Hello, today I want to show you my take one for a buttermilk bread. I got that recipe from a friend and I want to give this a try today together with you. So to go over the ingredients here, I have them all lined up here. I'm using 400 grams of regular bread flour, 100 grams of rye flour, 150 grams of water, 185 grams of buttermilk, 10 grams each of butter, 10 grams honey, 10 grams salt, and a half teaspoon of dry yeast. So I will start with the liquid ingredients. So I'm putting the water in, the buttermilk, so adding the yeast, and let that just mix in for a couple seconds. Okay, we'll move on and adding the flours next. Bread flour. There we go. Salt. 10 grams butter. And then the honey. Yeah. A little sticky, but that's obviously honey. Here we go. And now we let that mix knit in the KitchenAid for 10 minutes. So the dough has been knitting now for 10 minutes, and we'll just take the bowl out of the KitchenAid and get the dough off here. Feels pretty good. I'll scrape it down a little bit here, just to make sure that it doesn't dry up too much here, because I'll leave it in this bowl now for the resting times. To say, it feels really nice. Yeah. Perfect. So we'll cover that up with a towel and we'll let that rest for an hour and a half, and I'll be back after that time and show you the stretch and fold process. So our bread dough has been resting for an hour and a half now. We'll take a look. We're not seeing much yet because obviously with the rye flour it will take longer. So I show you now how I do the stretch and fold, and then you can repeat that on your own for additional times. I'll share some details here shortly. So the dough is pretty soft due to the fact that we have the buttermilk in it. It's not really too hard, but I'll leave it in the bowl. So I'll show you. You just pull it away and fold it to the center. Turn it a little bit, pull it, fold it down. Pull it, fold it down. I would not recommend to add additional flour at the current stage. It's not needed, but we'll need to get some volume in it and to get the gluten to react and to help us with the rye later on. So rye, usually when you're using it with yeast combination, it takes longer on the resting portion. So it's super easy because you literally just do the fold and stretch and let it rest and come back at a later time, do the same again. And I'll share here in a moment how often we want to do the fold and stretch and what the resting times are. So that's would be it on that first fold and stretch. Loosen it up a little bit, and if we can, we'll kind of turn it around. Okay? We cover that and let that rest again. So what I'm doing today, we're repeating that step 4 times. So hour and a half rest, stretch and fold, hour and a half rest, stretch and fold, and keep doing that 3 to 4 times depending on your time, depending on how the dough rises. But so my plan is to keep that going for 6 hours, and then at that point I'll show you the final stretch and fold step and forming the bread. So I'm back now to the final stretch and fold. So I have done it 3 times and had it rest an hour and a half between. So it's the final stretch and fold, and I have prepared here a proving basket with flour in it. So let me show you. Here the dough, I'll take it out now this time. So I sprinkle some flour here on the counter. As you can see, you know, it has risen nicely. Turn it upside down. We'll flatten it. And we do the final fold and stretch. Just as we did before, you know, it meanwhile got a nice form, a nice texture. It starts to have bubbles. I think the gluten developed extremely nice here with the rye added to it meanwhile. It just needed the time. Let's go around one more time, but you can feel it already. It's getting harder to stretch it, and that means we're kind of done. Just when I get it in a nice round shape. Turn it around. Let me put a little more flour on it so I can shape it a little bit and make it nice and round. Use the palms of your hand to get it in shape. Get the proving basket close and then put it upside down in it. Cover it again and let it rise for another hour and a half. After 45 minutes, I want you to preheat the oven, no convection, to 475 Fahrenheit. I use a cast iron skillet in it. So I put that cooker in there, including the lid, that it gets heated up. So that needs roughly 45 minutes. See you in an hour and a half again. Okay, it's 45 minutes later. The bread is ready to be scoured and to move into the oven. So as before, it's here in the proving basket. I have prepared a piece of parchment paper that I usually fold and cut off the corners. Put that on and I got a plate. So here's my basket. I like to put the parchment paper on here, put the plate on, turn it around. There we go. Look, turned out nice. So I usually go over there and get the flour nice and even if I can. Sometimes I have to add a little extra. So we'll do that now. Make it nice and smooth. And then comes the scouring. So you'll just play with it. Come up with what you like. You know, there's so many options out there, so many ideas how you can scour. I use a serrated knife and I have a razor blade here. So I'll do one down here on the side, just like a little one here, make it nice and deep. And then I do a star on the top. Important is that you go down a little bit, so maybe half an inch deep. Then I do a couple little things for decoration. Maybe just one on each here. I usually don't make them that deep. I'll just keep them so they open a little bit. Let's turn it around. Like that. And here we go. So that's the bread. I'll move that aside a little bit because I want to get my cast iron oven out here so I can show you how I put it in and how steaming hot it will be. So once again, I had preheated the oven for 45 minutes to 470, and I'll get the skillet out now. We'll put the bread in very quickly, put the lid on, put it back in, and let it bake at 450 Fahrenheit for roughly 15 minutes with the lid on. Then we'll change the temperature down to 425 Fahrenheit for another 25 minutes. So let me grab the cast iron oven. There we go. And close the oven again. I take off the lid. And it should be very hot now. So that all has to go fairly fast. So we'll take the bread, slide it in, put the lid back on, and put it right back in the oven. Here we go. Stay tuned. And I see you with the finished bread in an hour roughly.